No, you're on mute.
Okay, you can hear me now?
Yes.
Awesome. So thank you guys for your patience. We apologize for coming in here so late. Technology is usually not my friend, and it is not my friend today. So as I promised you guys, I was going to bring an administrator on board to talk to us a little bit about communication, effective communication between administrators and parents and even in our young bison. And so we know that with the sheer number of the administrators that's employed by many of our colleges and universities all over the country, there are some what we call bureaucratic job titles, and a student may not know which dean or associate dean or assistant dean to actually reach out to when they're struggling and having problems on campus. And even some parents who are parents of children who are first generation children may not know exactly where to go to get the information they need. So a lot of the institutions have what's called the governance documents, and those documents describe the way the colleges and universities are actually ran. And they sometimes include the description for each dean's job description so that students and parents can have a good understanding of what the role and responsibilities are. And some of those are also made public, some of them aren't. But in many cases, some parents and others may consider the document pretty dense and not really given the full scope of what students and parents need. And so we really want to make sure that our young people understand how to navigate the system, how to deal with the responsibilities of each administrators, and then also, really reduce the possibility that our students will find themselves going in circles when trying to reach out to administrators, especially when one administrator is referring them to another. And so they're just kind of chasing their tail. So today we will be having a brief conversation with Dr. Parris Carter. He is the higher education administrator and a former associate vice president of student affairs at Howard University. And here he's going to engage us in a bit of a dialogue about pitfalls and success related to communicating with administration and how we can better prepare our young emerging scholars while getting out of the way. And so thank you, Dr. Carter, for engaging me and dealing with my technology woes today. You were very patient.
Oh, absolutely. And thank you for inviting me. Always good to see you. And so, yeah, we'll work through this.
We're gonna work through it. Okay, good. So thank you. I just want to start off by giving our parents an opportunity to learn a little bit about your background and how you became a higher education administrator.
Sure. So I am in my 25th fall semester working on a college campus. Right now, I'm currently the vice president for student engagement and success at Wilberforce University, which is the oldest private HBCU in the country. Really, my time as an undergraduate student, I gravitated to the student union and student activities office as an undergraduate, and worked there for I think 3 years and had some mentors there, and sort of talked me into graduate school and talked about the profession and the work, was pretty neat at that point, and went to graduate school and, did the practicums and internships, and I was off to the races. And so this is my 5th institution. I've been here before, so I've returned to Wilberforce, but I've been at 5 stops, and one of those was the Howard University, where you and I met.
Absolutely.
But yeah, that kind of sums up my, I've done a little bit of everything in the student affairs spectrum. student services, residence life, housing, activities, parent programs, co-curricular, academic partnerships. I've done a whole lot in those 25 years.
Absolutely. And it's interesting because I think most people may think that Howard University is the oldest private HBCU, in the country. And so to hear that Wilberforce is actually probably shocking some of the parents that's listening today. Do you get that a lot, that people think that it's Howard University that's the oldest?
No, I don't get that a lot. Howard, is our premier HBCU, but there are a couple that are, Howard's trying to think exactly how many. But no, there are a couple that, are older than
An
HU.
hour.
But
Okay.
all of our histories are just so significant and rich,
Right.
But the small and mighty Wilberforce University was here first.
First. I heard that.
That's
I
right.
heard that. Well, thank you for giving us a little bit of a background of your career trajectory and how you end up being a higher education administrator. One of the things that we're seeing across the country is that with COVID, a lot of the students that are coming on campus now have been kind of separate from human contact and connecting with people
Yes.
for over a year and a half. And some of the issues that a lot of the institutions are facing is that they're getting the influx of freshmen and second year freshmen, we call them, because these students this is their first time on campus. Although they're sophomores, but this is still their first time, on campus. So they're dealing with a double kind of influx of freshman-minded students. And it can be overwhelming for some administrators and, educators on campus. And the other thing that we're noticing is that, some of the students are coming with certain types of skills that are missing in order for them to thrive. We think that the SATs are usually a great measure of their ability to be successful on campus. And that's another conversation. And I will argue that to death that is not the number one indicator to determine if someone will be successful. But, I believe that there are certain soft skills that our young people are missing when they come on campus. And those soft skills have also been impacted over these past 16 months. So in your opinion, what soft skills do you think our incoming students are missing that may be impeding their ability to function and thrive on campus?
Yeah. You touched on a really, really important factor. And I don't even call them soft skills anymore, Danielle. I think they're essential skills.
Mm-hmm.
I think that, our students, because they are so bright and so informed in terms of, worldly kinds of events. But what a lot of our students are lacking is the ability to see the right and the left, because I think some of this technology has created where we see what's in front of us and we will master what's in front of us. But I think some of our generation, we had to also focus on what is on the right and the left of us, because that is all these gray spots that the world presents to us and that campus will present to a young person. There's just all this stuff. There's noise on the side. And I have just seen where we're losing that, with our young people. I don't want to go on a rant with technology, but it's definitely, I'll give a perfect example. I remember a couple of years ago walking, I was somewhere on campus, and it was either in the summer or very early in the fall. A first year student was looking at a map, right? He had printed off a map that someone had, maybe an admissions person had sent them. And, so he's looking for this building, right? And we happen to be, a group of administrators happen to be walking up, and he was like really kind of flustered and, having a moment because there was some construction happening on campus.
Oh,
So,
wow. Oh, wow.
so the map that he's following to a T is disrupted because of the construction.
Construction.
Danielle, the place that he was looking for was right, like he was there, but it was just, beyond some of the construction, blah, blah, blah. But see, that was a perfect example of where we have to meet this generation, because they come to this campus academically prepared, ready to go, no real issues there. But all this other stuff that, just has to be navigated. And literally he was, when I mean flustered, like we stopped, we could tell that something was wrong because of his visual, presence.
Right, right.
And then as he started, calmed down and started to talk, he was just looking for the building. And if
Wow.
it had been where the map was, he'd have been fine. And so, I just think that that's what a lot of our challenge is as administrators, because we're no longer just advising, giving tours, making sure there's a bed for them to sleep. We're literally, in some ways, having to develop what some may see or some may think are, skills that maybe they should already have, but just lacking a little bit. So
yeah, that critical thinking is incredible. Like, I've had many conversations with young people, even adults, who still struggle with their critical thinking skills, and
right.
something as simple as like this young man trying to find his way, and there's these obstacles that's in his way, and
Right.
he's trying to figure out like what is the best practice to actually get around these obstacles. Like what challenges do you have to, what challenges should have been in front of you prior to help you navigate spaces like that when change occur. And so we recognize that young people really struggle with change, like big time, and having strong critical thinking skills help them navigate, change. And I also think that sometimes technology impact their ability to have critical thinking skills. And I think that's like a whole nother segment.
That's a whole nother.
It is definitely a whole nother segment. So, one of the questions that we get a lot from our parents, especially in HBC, is what do you, as an administrator, what do you find to be successful communication when it comes down to communication between students and leaders? And then then on the flip side of that, what do you see being the most ineffective communication?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say for students, going back to that example with the young man, understand that the journey for those 4 or 5 years is supposed to be uncertain. Like we don't talk about that enough. It is designed to be uncertain. Like you may be fortunate enough to have a syllabus that your professor follows to a T, and you can kind of predict, when your tests are, when quizzes are coming up, what assignments are due, blah, blah, blah. But the majority of your life for those 4 or 5 years is a lot of uncertainty. And so I think every conversation that you approach, and parents, we have to do a better job of helping to prepare. Like, this is what it's gonna be. Like, it's okay. Like, for one, it's okay to not get everything delivered in a nice, pretty box. Like, it's okay, because part of that is just the way it is supposed to be. So I think when young people are think it's important to build relationships with their college administrators, not just go to a meeting, not just request a meeting, but really try to build a relationship, and it's not like you need to take, hours out of your week to do this. But when I mean build a relationship, success rates are impacted by the connections that you make during those 4 or 5 years. Your overall experience, your likelihood of graduation, your ability to attain an internship, all of that is increased by the relationships you build with faculty and administrators. So I think that there should be some intention around that. I think approaching conversations and what may be needs that students have, approaching it as a partner, because campuses are communities. And I understand, families are paying a fee, but you're paying a fee for expert services. And I know that universities, like organizations around the world, sometimes fall short of that expectation. But we still have to approach everything as a community. And when I mean community, I mean, okay, I'm struggling with this and need help with this. This is what I'm going to do to make this situation better, but I need your help as a partner with this, because most issues that are student issues around their experience, what I have found is at the bottom of that tunnel, a lot of times there's some needs that the university has for students to fix this issue. Like there are also some needs to help us. But so many times there's this approach like, y'all need to fix this. Y'all need to fix this. And that doesn't always work. It just doesn't always work. And so I think those are two things that are important. Also, I always love it when students are solution oriented, not just bringing the issue, if you have a group of students that, are upset about, limited visitation, for instance, I'm just throwing out an example. Come with a solution that, addresses safety and development and your living experience and all these other things. Don't just go to social media, do a petition for later hours, like things like that. And the same for parents. Like offer real solutions, not this is what I want and this is what I feel. Because many times students and parents don't always know all the inner workings that have to happen to solve this issue. You know what I mean? Like there's so much that has to happen. No solutions are easy on a college campus because they're just complex organizations. And so just needing more partnership and help around viable solutions. And that's why I love having, parent groups, that can assist with helping us, with those solutions. So I found that those approaches effective. And then the last one is just an email, like a student or parent, an email, and then follow up for the student, follow up with a visit. But for a parent, to give some time, I think 48 hours is always a decent standard. Some places can respond quicker. Some places maybe need a little more time, but I think 48 hours is a standard. Yes, you should get some kind of response within this time frame, and just a little grace. that's one thing that when this pandemic started, I really appreciated a lot of, corporate folks, adopted these slogans with, their workforce and their clients, like, please allow some grace. Like if nothing else, this,
Right.
we need some grace. And so I would also say that, that would be something to, keep in mind.
Awesome. And that's some of the things that we've been sharing with our parents at Higher Parent Connect is, some of the things that you pointed out, partnerships with the administrator in a way that your communication brings solutions, which is really, really critical. We found initially, and I know the parents are kind of, they've channeled it a little bit more, but initially it was a lot of like, complaining, I'm going to complain, I'm going to dump, I'm going to complain. And then it causes other people to get worked up and stressed out, as opposed to coming to the space, offering some type of solution, some type of strategic thinking. Some parents really, can hone it in, but some other parents may be so hyper stressed about what's going on. It's hard for them to kind of think that way. So really building those healthy relationships. And then having some grace and, because there's so much going on with these administration and these universities, and there's a layers to trying to resolve the issues. I think part of the problem with the parents and some of the anxiety that they're experiencing is that they present an issue, they address the issue, and they want it resolved tomorrow. And then the other piece is that why can't they resolve it tomorrow? They're getting millions of dollars. Every time we turn around, Howard is getting millions of dollars, or this institution is getting millions of dollars. But they're not recognizing that some of those millions is allocated to a particular thing and not necessarily to solve your issues. Like, while we would love for the millions of dollars to go towards fixing the plumbing, unfortunately, this donor gave it to this particular thing, maybe to get, band equipment. And that's the only thing that you can spend that money on. And I think sometimes parents forget that, but given grace and understanding, and it goes back to our earlier conversation about understanding the responsibilities of those people in higher education, not just having titles. Because even for me, prior to coming into and working in higher administration, I didn't know the difference between a provost and a dean. I had no clue. I was like, well, what's the difference between them? Like, what are their roles? And so, like, really having a better understanding of what their roles are and what they have the power to control. And so with that, because you talked a little bit about parents and, exercising grace and really forming partnerships, do you think that sometimes parent involvement in some of these issues, do you think that sometimes it helps? Or do you think sometimes it impedes lines of communication?
Oh, that's tricky, Danielle.
It's a loaded one.
That is tricky. I think back, maybe 10, maybe back to 15 years. The administration, college administration was, really anti-parent. You had, these theories around in locos parentes, and where, adults, you're 18, you come to the institution, and, we deal with you, and I think, a combination of parents never letting up and the institution also seeing where there's value in that partnership, because students were arriving on campuses with so many needs. Mm-hmm. And so we learned that, okay, students are more successful when we sort of wrap around the student and support them. And part of that wraparound, the parents, that are there. And so then we moved to, let's embrace parents. Let's bring them into, the governance of the institution. Let's bring them into the campus community. And I do think that there's value in that. I do think even more for this generation, because those active parents have been so active throughout, their academic journey anyway. And so parents get involved. So they're just not, ideally, they're just not calling when there's an issue. They're also involved in some things that they really enjoy. And so when there are some issues, they're more likely to be that partner that I talked about, more than just, this upset parent. So I do overall, I think it is parent involvement is valuable. I do think at times it is more of a disruption. And the reason why is not really because of, from an administrative view, but so many times the issues that parents have, the parents are on 10, the students are about 2. So the students, A, are really not bothered, B, are bothered, but are just dealing with it like we want them to, that I talked about in the beginning, because that is part of the process of a college campus and their development. But they're never, very rarely, are they where the parent is. And I just think that pulls away some of that critical development that the student is supposed to have. I believe that students need to be step 1, 2, sometimes 3 with resolving a problem. Then when it can't get resolved, yeah, sure, your parent that's involved already, absolutely, they can assist. But so many parents get involved at the ground level a lot of times, and it hasn't even been, given the chance to sort of play out and see what the student's going to learn about this. How are they going to, go to the resident director and set up a meeting? And because all of those are lessons. But I think from parents, it's all about the economic investment. No, I'm paying this and it needs to happen quickly. And just a lot of times that's more disruptive than helpful.
Yeah. And that was one of the things that we found, even with some of the administrators for Howard Parent Connect, when we talk to our own children. Of course, my daughter has already graduated from Howard, but the 2 administrators that are there managing the page have talked to their kids, and often that they would find that those are issues that they're like, oh, we're cool, we're going to figure it out. And then we have a group of parents like, oh, off with your heads, like, shut it down, like, we gonna call the president. And so, the level of urgency is a little unequal often. But I think the natural reaction, socially, especially those parents that are heavily involved parents that, came from K through 12 as a very heavily involved parent, and now they're transitioning their young person into higher education. It takes them a little while to kind of let the reins go a little bit, and then everything is definitely on fire. Like the house is on fire. We need to fix the problem, but we forget that this is not the PTA meeting anymore. Like it's not the PTO meeting anymore. It's not the school board meeting. Like, yeah, you invested, thousands of dollars for your kid to go to school, but it's a different kind of experience. And, even your comment about in locos parentis, like that is like that's a critical thing, when we're talking about K through 12, it shifts a little bit, because now they grown folk. It's like, hey,
that's right. Yeah.
If you don't eat, hey, that's your problem, type thing. So that's really good to kind of hear your perspective around like, the helping or the hindering, and getting parents to, bring it into perspective sometimes when they feel like the roof is on fire, but the kids think it's just kind of like a bonfire, right? Yeah. So the difference between the perspectives.
Yeah.
So what advice do you have for parents regarding like properly preparing their bison or any young person entering school, college for the first time, and coaching their scholars for this like new semi-independent experience?
Yeah, I think those and my children, and Danielle, mine are younger, and so I even struggle with this, now just trying to be intentional about letting them experience hardship.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it's almost like that has to be the design. Like, you want to get them involved in co-curricular stuff, try to have dinner, around a certain same time at night, let them experience hardship. Like it's almost like that. And because so much of our involvement, I just think eliminates a lot of that hardship. And so, anytime you can integrate that into the rearing, I just think it's really healthy. And if you can't, and you find yourself at junior, senior year, there has to be a lot of conversation. And there has to be some real commitment on the parent side too, because a lot of this is us. It's the parent.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, see, parents, we don't always understand that if we have a shy kid that we have somewhat protected and they go off to college, and the minute that they are having their shy moment and call home, we get on 10. It makes it worse for them. It makes it even worse for them. It adds anxiety for them.
Right.
Where we as parents can do more checking ourselves and really challenging ourselves to step back.
Right.
They will take these steps away, which is what we want. I know it's a hard concept, but that is what we want. That is the best preparation that we can provide, because the academic stuff, we're already structured in that. They fall with grades. We're on them. We're on them every day about their homework and all that. So I don't even want to talk about that, because if they make it to a place, if they make it to any institution of higher education, especially Howard, they're fine there. But what impedes on their real progress is all that other stuff. To me, as a student development guy, that stuff is equally as important, in some cases more important, that developmental stuff, because they can be as bright as all get out, but if they can't navigate the challenges and some of the discourse that any college campus around the country is going to present, that they're just going to struggle. They're just going to struggle. And then again, there too, when they call home, is going to be a parent's 10. And so that's really my biggest message, is just around that. And I don't know how every family does that and has that conversation or allows that, those kind of scenarios to play out. But to me, that's it, because the student that is your straight A student, your really focused academic student, they're that student that the first time a roommate is playing a different kind of music, they're ready to call home. And so, just, preparing them for this very different world, challenge becomes the norm. Challenge and working through it, and like you said, critically thinking through it, is a big part of that 4 or 5 years.
Yeah. And I think the other thing is that, our parents know our kids, right? They know exactly who they're leaving on campus. They already know what they dealt with for 17, 18 years. They know. And so some parents, because they know what they're dealing with, they hold on really, really tight. They keep their eye on them because they know their capacity to be able to manage through that process. And then other parents, they know. And so they know that those are some students, they're kids that don't need a lot of hand holding, and you just kind of watch them bloom and figure it out. So giving credit to some of the parents who definitely know their kid and know that they need to embrace them a little tighter. And then those who know their kid and step back a little bit more. What do you think about, those parents who know that their kid is going to struggle, know their kid that is going to be challenged and dealing with these independent spaces, know their kids not quite yet ready to be let go of? Do you think those are the kind of kids that it's like, oh, maybe they should have taken a gap year, or maybe they should have, maybe they should have went to a 2-year college or a community college, because this is a big deal. What is your thoughts around that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, 2-year and community colleges are really good options for a lot of students, even some students that may fully be ready, very autonomous. And I just think there's a lot of benefit. But definitely for those students that maybe need to walk a little slowly into that full independence, those are great options. Those are great options. And even, 4-year institutions that maybe are in state or close in proximity, where a parent can visit once a week and they be okay with that, as an option as well. But yeah, absolutely. I think those are really good options.
Absolutely. And so, my last question before I check to see if there's any questions in the chat, and I see a couple people are listening and watching. So if you have questions, please drop it in the chat box so I can share it with Dr. Carter. But my last question is that, we know that COVID is not going away, and it's been, impacting our families now for more than 16 months. And, so there's different challenges that young people are facing when they show up to campus. They're definitely showing up different than our traditional first-year students. Some of them are coming with the loss of parents and sisters and brothers and uncles and aunts, just loved ones due to COVID. And just not having that connection and not really having people surrounding them once they get on campus to help them breathe through the process. And so we know that this is a different season, a different year, and COVID doesn't look like it's going away anytime soon. So because of that, what advice can you give to young emerging scholars that are now preparing for their first year in college come next year? Or those who had just showed up on campus this semester? Like, what advice can you give to them to help them navigate this new space?
Yeah, that's loaded. And just a moment to honor, anyone that's, lost family or close ones, or have, really struggled, during this time. I think, one, as you know, most institutions, well, a lot of institutions, a lot of state institutions, and some privates have started to follow suit, requiring vaccinations, to at least live on campus and to be present on campus. And so, something to keep in mind as you're preparing. There are, some young people that are, really against vaccination, are looking at other institutions that aren't requiring it. But my message around that is, I think all institutions are going to follow suit sooner or later. And so you're just going to have to, make a real decision around that. If you have already selected your institution, we've been talking about this for years, but I think it's become more evident around this mental health piece. But there's also been more resources and access to care in the last 2 years. Every institution has received lots of resources from their state through the CARES Act to support students' needs that, may have been presented because of the pandemic. And those are around mental health, they're around technology. So pretty much every institution should have either a laptop or some kind of, device support for students that are in need. So take advantage of that, take advantage of all those things that are really important. I would say mental health really has become like insurance. Even if you're not feeling that you're struggling with some kind of emotional issue, it's there, it's on your campus. If nothing else, it's someone to talk to, and can just help you navigate small or large issues. And the one thing that one of the many things, but one thing that sticks out that I love about this generation is, they've done, a lot of them have done away with, just the, what do you call it? Some of the, not myth, but just our community not wanting to, seek mental health. And, so this generation, is a little more open, that they're like, hey, I'm going. In fact, let's form our own group therapy, and so I love all of that because I think it's really helpful. And so students going away really should, just consider it's insurance, go and just like tutoring, it's insurance. You don't have to wait till you're struggling. This is a service that offered for you for free in most cases. So just take it, just take it. So those are just some tips that I would, provide for the young people,
That's some good advice, because I don't think that, the whole idea around like taking advantage of the support services that are available instead of waiting for when it's an emergency, right? So you get it ahead of time because it's available, it's accessible to you, tutoring, mental health, whatever that is. Take advantage of it now so that when the trauma, and the grieving and the things start to happen in your life, you're already prepared to manage it, as opposed to trying to reach out to it once you're already kind of falling apart. Now you need to be, put back together. That's just right. To get, take that step to get the, get the services. So that's really, really helpful. And you're right about this new generation who, debunk this idea that, we don't use mental health services, right? Black folks don't do that. We don't go to counseling. We don't do therapy, right? Our young people are being really creative and innovative about how they provide support services to even one another. Every time I'm on Facebook, I see young ladies putting together, women empowerment luncheons. And while it seems really kind of like, very broad in a sense, and they're not necessarily therapists, but it's a way to connect with people and keep yourself grounded and focused, with like-minded individuals. So that's really great feedback.
Yeah.
Awesome.
No campus has the amount of mental health professionals to match the ratio of their student body. Like, very rare do you find that. Everyone is sort of struggling with the amount of bodies. But what we've learned is what you're saying. There's other ways to support students. And one of those really effective ways is to get other college students, like peer educators, RAs. That's why we started to give, the RAs some strategies to help those students, because, counseling centers have wait lists on every college campus, but there may be some, some other ways to help. So absolutely.
Yes, I love that. Love that idea. So let me go into like this YouTube page and see if there's any questions. I see people checking us out. So, we got people that just like, let me listen. I don't have too many questions right now.
What they talking about?
What are they talking about? They'll inbox me later like that. I don't even like that. I don't like that. So let's see. So YouTube, I don't have any questions here. And I don't see any coming up on our Facebook page. So maybe we're addressing the questions as we're going along, which is great.
There you go.
We're addressing them quickly.
That's right.
So I don't see any questions, but do you have any last minute reflections or thoughts before we close out our conversation today?
I would say in closing, for families that are considering this journey, I always stress to parents that this journey is a lot about you as well. And many times, way more difficult, for the parent than the students. We know that they're going to have their, challenges, but how are we going to grow, as parents, because it is a work in progress for us too. And so I like to challenge parents to make sure you've thought through your plan, your plan of separation, because trust me, that your young person is, they're looking forward to it. They're figuring out how they can grow into their adulthood. And we got to do all that we can to support and push that along, as opposed to holding on so much. Yeah.
And we know it's hard, and I had
Yeah.
to do it, 3 times, as a parent of 3 vibrant adults, now, and but we sometimes we gotta let them go. Sometimes our kids gotta bruise up them knees and bruise up them elbows so they can figure it out. And it's all right. There's healing behind the bruising, so it'll be okay.
Right.
So I really
That's right.
appreciate you sharing your reflections on parents, really partnering with our administrators as partners, and thought partners, really, to make sure that our students thrive, not just our current students but future students. Also really encouraging parents to give administrators some grace, because this is a trying time and there's a lot going on and there's a lot of layers to trying to address these issues across the campus, especially when you have large campuses the way some of us do. And then the other thing that we take away from is like really allowing our children to experience it fully, allow them to walk into it fully, and be challenged, because through the challenges and the failures and the, pulling themselves up is what's going to help them be successful kind of going through. And I know that's really difficult for parents to hear. Parents, I know, don't inbox me, don't beat me up, but I love you. But that's, another really, really good message to share. Do your best, and we know that our children are, our number one, and that's our investment, right? Our children, just in their humanity and just their safety in the community. So I want to thank you, Dr. Carter, for joining us this afternoon. I hope that we can engage you again in the future on another topic. And if there's anything that we can do to support you and some of the parents that are coming through your campus, let us know. And then for all of you guys who are watching on YouTube and watching on Facebook, if you have some additional questions that you just didn't get a chance to kind of formulate here, pop them up in the chat and we'll share them with Dr. Carter later on. So thank you again.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you, Danielle, for having me. I appreciate it. Anytime for you.
Oh, yay. Love it. Love it. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.